Welcome to this live. I'm Megan Hoffer of Megan Hoffer Photography and founder of Lancaster Photography School, where we provide education, mentorship, and community to photographers in the Pennsylvania area. And today we have a really exciting guest. We're continuing the series for our Meet the Wedding Vendor series with an amazing florist and one of my very good friends, Nadine of Lancaster Flower Company. So thank you for being here, Nadine. Let's hear a little bit about how you got your start as a florist and where you are now with your new retail shop. I can't wait to hear more about that too.
Thank you, Megan. My story's a little bit not normal, which I find make the best stories sometimes. But I was a nursing school dropout, and I did not know what I wanted to do with my life. And I'd always been a very artsy person, but a more intellectual person as well. Like I love reading and I love learning and stuff like that. So when I was deciding to go to college, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go for art or nursing, something more intellectual. I went with nursing, and then I just decided that I didn't want to do it anymore. So I dropped out, and I just was completely lost, didn't know what to do. And then I'm one of four children. So my older sister's friends were getting married, and they didn't want to pay for a florist because, sometimes they can be pricey. Um, and so she was like, hey, like Nadine's really crafty and artsy. Maybe she can do it for you. And I said, I have never been to a wedding and I have never arranged flowers, but if you're okay with that, then I will do it. And I did it, and more people started asking me, and it kind of just became a thing. So I remember it was January 2016. I was 21 years old, and I just decided, you know what, this would be super cool to do as a job. Now, I had ran another business previously. It was a crocheting business.
Yeah.
But then flowers kind of took over, so I put that back as a hobby again, which is kind of nice, and went full time with flowers. But it was one of those things where I was like, having one wedding a month would be amazing. And like, what if I didn't know the client, the bride, the client? And so January 2016, I had like maybe 3 or 4 people contact me that were friends of mine. And by June, I had over 50 people asking me to do their wedding flowers.
Oh
So it
my
was
gosh, that's
I know.
incredible.
Like, I have no idea how it happened. It was just one of those things that the door opened so organically, that it was just like an obvious thing that I was supposed to be doing. So from there, I mean, for the first like 6 or 7 years of the business, I worked a full-time job, and the full-time business. And sometimes I had some part-time jobs as like on top of those as well. So I definitely worked really hard to go full time. I went full time in 2020 because why not when the earth is at a standstill and events are illegal? But it was one of those things where I was finally at a point where it could be something that I could do full time, and I just had to make that step, and it was uncomfortable and it was scary, but if you want something different for your life, you can't keep doing what you're doing. You have to do different things. So being a single woman, I was living on my own, and I decided that if I had to eat PB&J every single day, morning, noon, and night, for months, I would do it. And it was one of those things where it's scary, but because I didn't work another full-time job again, I had more time to push into the business, and I was able to move it forward and make it bigger in different ways.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I
Yeah,
think a lot of people it's scary. It's so scary to just make the jump of not knowing where your income's coming from. And also letting everyone know that you did work a full-time job for all those years, making it work. But I kind of had the same experience where I didn't really have the time to actually learn until I was laid off from my job. And all of a sudden I had all this time to learn photography and try to do this thing. And sometimes that was nice for me that I just got forced into it, because I don't know that it would have been easy to make that choice on my own. And kudos to you for actually making the decision for yourself. So, wow.
It was not easy. It was a very hard decision. I'm not spoiled, but I'm definitely spoiled. Like I like living a spoiled life, but I feel like there's also a massive stigma around the fact that a vendor, whether it's a wedding vendor or just a photographer in general or whatever, if you work on top of having your business, people seem to like discount you. And I don't think that's fair. I also don't think it's like I have gotten a lot of pushback for not going and getting a degree in floral school. I don't have a floral education. I learned by doing and by faking it till I made it. And people don't like that. So, but it's one of those things where you just have to kind of put your nose to the grindstone and put your blinders on and just keep moving forward, because if you're doing what you like doing, it's kind of bound to be a success. Like it's hard to screw that up, if hard work makes the dream work.
So true, so true. You're right. If you have a passion about something, you can't stop learning about it. You can't. You become obsessed with it, and you just keep pushing forward, keep moving, and you end up learning all the things. I think it's very similar with photography in that, like, people who go to college for photography, they don't learn what it is that we need to learn to actually have a business and be a business owner. They're learning how to, take pictures for magazines or work for a corporation or something like that. But they're not learning what you actually need to learn to be a photographer and own your own photography business. So that's cool to hear the similarities between florists and photographers. And I forgot to mute my phone. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't even hear it. You're good.
Why does everybody call me when things are actually happening?
Because they know that you're busy.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. No, I completely agree. And I think that there's work for people who like educated photographers, and there's work for people who like more natural photographers, like with a natural innovative look on it. I feel like just the same as there's clients who like more traditional flower work, and there's clients who like more modern and funky work. It's there's enough work to go around, and I think that people should be a little bit slower to judge, for sure. And especially, I worked out of my house for 7 years of my business, and it was one of those things where I didn't dare say it, because people would assume that it's like a hobby then, and it's not. It's paying my bills, and I pay enough taxes that you should not be thinking this is a hobby. So this past August, though, I did decide to move into a storefront. I had it as a studio for quite a few months, and just last month, at the end of March, I opened up for retail shopping, just part-time hours, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It is super exciting, a little bit daunting because I work with a product that dies. No biggie. But I think it's going to be exciting to see how it changes and grows, and I kind of wanted to allow itself to kind of grow by itself. I don't want to try to force it into a corner. So, it is what it is. We'll see how it goes, but I'm just happy to have a space that people could go to pick up flowers that are not a chain store, and have that ability, especially around this area. People love the small business sort of feel and vibe. And so we'll see what happens, but I'm happy with it.
I've been watching everything that you do on Instagram, and I cannot wait to stop in and surprise you one day during your hours.
I love surprise visitors. I have coffee, I have comfy chairs. I'm ready at all times.
So what are your hours at this time?
Right now it is Thursdays 10 to 6,
Okay.
Fridays 10 to 6, and Saturdays 9 to 4.
So how do weddings work in with that?
Yes. So weddings are Thursdays through Sundays for the most part. So it works out because when I'm prepping a wedding, I'm in the shop. So if somebody happens to walk in, I can help them. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If I'm already going to be here, might as well allow people to come in and get flowers, you know? For the days that I'm not going to be physically here because I'll be off at wedding venues or something, I do have obviously employees that will cover the shop. So that's no big deal.
I like
But
how you just say it's no big deal to have employees. That's a huge step in a business to have an employee.
it is,
No big deal.
oh, it's good. It's good. I, yeah, it's a good thing. And it kind of puts the pressure off of me. One of my biggest things is reliability. So even if I don't have tons of customers right now, the fact is that I need to stay reliable. So I can't just shut down on a Saturday because that's not a reliable business.
Practice.
Yeah, like you have to have a reliability for people so that even if they don't need flowers, they know that you're there. One of those things. So yeah.
That's so cool. I'm so proud of you. It's been such an honor to watch you grow from, you know, everything that you've been doing from being in your house to, now you're selling all these cool things. I saw an Instagram story that you did the other day that had a cup, a mug with natural bodies on it, and you were showing it. Do you remember? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love that one so much.
So I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit sassy when I started buying things for the shop. So the shop is in Lidditz, okay? And Lidditz is very conservative and old-fashioned. And while I also can be conservative sometimes and old-fashioned, I really wanted to bring in like things like natural bodies and boobies and skin
Use
tone
babies.
with the white. So I have like little bud vases of like a more caramel color skin tone, you know, like those sorts of things. I wanted to bring in stuff that wasn't so like Bible Belt, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I honestly think that there's more people out there than you realize, between Lancaster and Lidditz is, a very artsy town. I think that all of that's going to be very well received. I mean,
It has been. People have walked in and they have very much so exclaimed that they're in love, and I even had one lady come in and she said, I feel seen in this shop, look, that's my body on a mug. And I was like, yeah.
yes, that is amazing.
Yeah, it felt good because being being that I used to model and I'm a curve model, I have not been well received in Lancaster County, and so I know how it feels, and I want people to be able to see themselves, whether it's skin tone, ethnicity, or body type. I want them to be able to see that they're stunning as they are, because nobody else is like them, and they are who they are, and there's no like better version of them than what they are at the moment. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I just love everything about you. So back to florists and photographers. I think that it would be really beneficial for photographers to understand what your workflow looks like. Number one, to see the similarities, and then also the huge differences in your timeline on a wedding day and where you are and what you're doing. So you don't have to get into super detail, but like kind of walk us through somebody inquires and then what happens? Like, how do they pick out their flowers and how do you get to where you are? And they're usually bringing in pictures, I'm assuming, of like, I like this. So talk to me about that. Like, tell us about what that whole process looks like from the florist perspective.
Absolutely. So I'm sure it's different for every business. Every business has their workflow, but I'm sure it's like all pretty much similar, you know. So when I get an inquiry in, I ask for inspo pictures. Just because when somebody says I want elegant, okay, well, is elegant, what is elegant to you, or what is small to you, or what is wildflower to you? Because most people think wildflowers you can pick up on the side of the road, but then they show you pictures with roses and delphinium and ranunculus.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, well, and that's fine. You know, half of our jobs is teaching, you know, teaching part of, you know, what we're doing. But So I get an inquiry in, I look at all of the information they sent, and then I send out an estimate. And then we usually have like a Zoom call. We talk about things they like, what they don't like. I personally like to take what they like, what they don't like, and their personality. And I like to make that into what I call a recipe for their wedding. So it's one of those things where I don't repeat my recipes for flowers. So I could have a black and white wedding on Saturday and a black and white wedding on Sunday, and it's not going to look anything like each other because this is Jen's wedding and this is Ashley's wedding, you know? So that's an important part to me, just because I personally think it's more fun that way, you know, to be able to do something unique and special for each person and their personality and their relationship and all that stuff. I also do ask if they have any sentimental flowers. So if they were really close to their grandmother and the grandmother passed away, but she loved ranunculus, I will make sure that there's at least one ranunculus. If it's a flower that's completely out of season, I will suggest a small faux one in the back of the bouquet, closest to the heart. That way it doesn't always, if it's like, if they like tiger lilies and tiger lilies are orange, but they're having a blush wedding, it's not going to be one big orange hunk of a flower sticking out. It's closer to their heart, it's in the back, and that's what I usually suggest. So, but it might be a good thing for a photographer to know that, because then they could get a special photo, maybe of like, you know, something close up with their hands and like a little toggle charm that people do with their grandparents and stuff like that. So knowing that might be a good thing for a photographer, instead of just saying like, oh, she just has some random flower in the back or something like
Because
that.
that's probably what we would think. We like seeing it like, oh, there's an orange flower in the back. Huh.
Yeah, yeah. I can't even say that.
So
Very
that's
true.
good to know. I know on my questionnaire when I ask about, photos that are important to them, we always ask like, are there special situations? Are there special things that we wouldn't know about? And that, the example I give is like, is there something clipped inside the bodice of your dress or something like that? So I would hope that they would think about that, but I don't know. That's something that I would definitely, now I'm going to really consider that when I'm taking that bouquet shot.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that even though it's a sentimental thing to them, sometimes they don't even realize it could be. Like, I'll have a conversation with a client and I'll be like, okay, are there any sentimental flowers you absolutely must have in your bridal bouquet? And they're like, oh yeah, well grandma loved this and that would be amazing to have.
Oh,
So it's
I
something
love that.
that's for like at the top of their brain. So knowing that as a photographer might kind of give you a one up, and that always adds personal touches from the photographer or the vendor to the client, and that's really really important in my opinion. So
Just adding so much value to what you do. That's incredible. Thank you for that tip, Nadine. All right.
absolutely.
So they've picked out their bouquet and you've quoted them and they book with contract and whatnot. What happens next as far as your prep? Or is there anything in between that I've missed?
Not necessarily. So by the time that they book, I usually know like their style and what we're doing on the tables and stuff like that. Now, if you have a wedding that books 2 years out, you can bet your bottom dollar that their centerpiece is going to change. They're going to change their color scheme. They're going to change this. They're going to change that. That's totally fine with me. For me, you can change anything up to 30 days before the wedding. Okay. And that's, if you need closer to the wedding, if I can do it, I'll do it, but once the order's in for flowers, you can't really stop there, and change things. So, yeah, so what I do is around 60 days, I reach back out to them. 30 days is usually when a guest count is in. So I reach out around 60, via email, and just kind of say like, hey, has anything changed? Are we still feeling good about this? That and the other, and that's when I will choose the flower types. Okay. Now they are more than welcome to ask or request certain flower types. They're welcome to send me Canva mock-ups. They can send me anything they want. But I've learned that it usually looks better and more well thought out at a better price if they don't pick every single flower, because they'll be picking every single main flower they can find that they like, whereas we will take little bits and pieces here, fill in with these other things, and it'll usually come out to a better price that way.
And
From
it
there,
looks better too, because it just looks more interesting.
I think so too sometimes. I mean, there are some girls out there that could probably be florists themselves with how much they can offer, which is awesome. Once we figure out the flowers, I always send them the list of the flowers I'll be using. That way they can see if they like any or not like any, or change stuff around. Is there too much white? Is there too much pink? Is it too bright of a pink? These things happen. Okay. So it's fun to send them that. And then from there, we solidify everything. The only reason we would veer off of that list of flowers is if they came in bad or they suddenly were unavailable. And then in that case, we change it out for something that's super comparable, as comparable as we can get.
And for you, you've been doing this so long and you did it through COVID. So I feel is it at this point, it's not such a big deal for you to kind of know what to grab instead of this one because it didn't come in or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, the funny thing is I've learned that as a florist, I see flowers differently than a client would. So, a large mum, in my opinion, I'm like, oh, it's a mum. Okay. But they're like, is that a dahlia? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've learned to open up my mind a little bit more and see it as a client might see it, not as a flower connoisseur might see it.
Good way to put it. Yes. Now, when people are like, they have this idea of what they want, are they ever going off of a photographer's editing style and like, oh, I want this? And you're like, that doesn't exist in the world.
100%. Probably 8 out of 10 times I'll tell them this is an edit that a photographer put on this photo. So it's actually a champagne. It's not a brown.
Okay.
Those sorts of things. Or it's not this blush. It's actually white. It just kind of depends on the photographer. At that point, I will ask them, who's your photographer? And I'll say, okay, so if you really want this flower, it literally does not exist unless I spray it or your photographer edits it. So is it more important for your flowers to look a certain color in person or in the photos that you'll have the rest of your life? It depends. There's no right or wrong answer. Sometimes I can, find a flower. I'll say, okay, it's not this flower, but it's the exact same color as the edit. And we'll be able to get that in. But then still, you'll need to go back to your photographer and see what their editing style is. There are some photographers that make greens more of an orangey tone, and that's totally fine. I love art, obviously, but you have to know that if you booked that photographer and you have a greenery wedding, it's not going to look like a greenery wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Colors are just going to be off, and that's okay. That's fine. But you just need to understand and know that your photographer is how you're going to remember this wedding. And I'm sure you can preach that from the mountaintops.
Yes, I definitely can. I mean, in for me specifically, I chose my editing style because I like it. Of course, I'm not gonna. I don't think anyone should choose an editing style just because it sells well or anything like that. You should love your editing style and feel really good about it. You should want to hang your own pictures up in your own home. But I did also consider that I wanted to be a true to color photographer because of all of these factors. I wanted to make sure that the florists could use the pictures for their portfolios, knowing that they're showing the flowers as they actually look in real life. And I mean, there's always some tweaks, there's always some weddings that are, it's really tough to keep the flowers looking exactly the way they look in real life. But I always do my very, very best to make sure the flowers, at least the flowers that are from the florist, the grass is a different story. Like we got to do what we got to do with the grass sometimes. When it comes to the bouquet or the boutonniere or anything that has to do with the flowers that come from the florist, I will bend over backwards trying to make those flowers look like they did in real life. And it's not always easy, but I think it's really important. So
I doubt that it's easy. I do not envy your job at all. I've done a lot of things for weddings. Photography is not going to be one of them. But definitely think like there are photographers, and I could even just like name them off. There are photographers that when you book them, you have to know that they're not going to edit true to color. But if that's your vibe, if moody is your vibe, then go for it. But
Yeah.
make sure that we're all your vendors are aware that this is going to happen, because we might choose flowers or tones that are a little bit different just so that it doesn't get too dark or too orange or whatever. It's just a conversation that should be a little bit more open than what I think it is.
Yeah.
um, I don't think that that clients realize how interconnected all the vendors are with getting the job done. And that's just one of those like things that you just have to preach until people start learning it.
Yes, absolutely. On that note, I want to ask the question of flat lay flowers. Talk to me about flat lay flowers because I know everyone sees these beautiful flat lays that have flowers galore, and you look on Pinterest or you look wherever, photographers that you follow, that they always seem to have these gorgeous flowers in their flat lays. So it's become this kind of like assumption that when you get there, there's going to be flowers to use for your flat lays. So talk to me about the reality of that from the florist perspective.
This is a hot button subject for florists and just the wedding industry in general. I have made TikToks and reels about literally showing how flowers can elevate your detail photos. That is not something that should be expected. Flat lay flowers are something that the client has to pay for. I don't know one florist out there who will just be like, oh yeah, just have my leftovers. That's not a thing. That's, it's not a thing. It's not like we're trimming fabric and it's just laying on the floor. If you want my floor pieces, they're not cute. Okay. Floor for a reason. And usually what I like to do is I like to even add in some ribbon that's on the bridal bouquet, just to kind of like completely fill in that whole, like kind of just attach everything to itself. I am all for detail photos with flowers. It totally elevates it. I will say though that there are some clients that come to me and they say, I don't like flowers, but I'm getting married, so I need flowers. Cool. That's cool. I get it. It's fine. It's fine. But then maybe have some pearls or something for detail shots. If you're having like a super elegant wedding, then maybe do little Swarovski crystals or something like that. Very rarely have I seen a photo of a piece of paper, some rings, and whatever, and it's like, wow, I can't believe that. I'm gonna hang that up in my house.
Right. You need something.
Or it's out there, but having little detail pieces, I mean, come on. It's you're making a sculpture in a flat lay, okay? It's not a massively 3D sculpture, but it's a sculpture in itself, and you need to realize that you can't just slap some paint on a canvas and say it's good. Just because you had it, whatever. I don't know if that made sense, but it made
Yeah.
sense in my head.
And for anybody listening, if you have an interest in learning how to do flat lays, Ashley Kendall with RSVP Love is teaching an in-person flat lay class for Lancaster Photography School coming up soon. Don't make me quote the date. I'll look it up and maybe link it here while Nadine is talking, but we do have one coming up soon. So if you want to learn how to do flat lays better, and she goes into what happens if you don't have flowers. So we want to make sure that you are capable of doing a flat lay without flowers because it is possible, absolutely 100%. So like Nadine was saying, you're not always going to get flowers from the florist, either, for whatever reason, but especially if the clients didn't pay for them. So, not every florist just says, here are flat lay flowers for you. That's hard to come by. So you want to be able to make sure that you can do a flat lay without flowers too. So now I've heard that occasionally, I already know your reaction to this, so I'm just waiting for it. But I'm going to ask it for everybody listening. Should photographers clip a flower from a bouquet to use in the flat lays. Or like, maybe in, there's like this little tiny vase of flowers, over here for the getting ready space, but like guests aren't going to see it or anything. They're just, like an added little thing that they had. So is that an okay thing to do or not?
I'll trade you your lens for a flower off of a random bouquet.
That's a good
Okay.
response.
Yeah, come on now. Okay, so that's like saying a girl's wearing a one piece and another girl's wearing a bikini and she needs more fabric, so she's gonna cut the fabric off of the girl with the one piece just because there's more fabric there. No, we don't do that. Okay, let's use our heads. So here's what I'm gonna say about that. Okay, number one, you can talk to your client about ordering flat lay flowers. Okay, that's not a bad thing to do. Okay, open communication, let's go. You can even do a CC. You can CC me, you can BCC me. I don't even know what that means. You can do whatever you want. Add me in the email. Put a text blast out. I don't care. Talk to your clients about what they might benefit from, because they don't know. Most people haven't gotten married before, who are having this kind of wedding. So, keep that in mind. I will say, if the client has not ordered flat lay flowers, because guess what? Everybody's on a budget. I get it. I couldn't afford it if I wanted them. Talk to the florist. Say, hey, if you want to make sure that the detail shots have little flowers in them, if you want to add some, let me know. I'll add them in. Or use the boutonnieres. Those are the tiniest little bouquets of flowers. That's totally fine.
Just don't take them apart.
Just don't
lay them down in the flat lay. We don't take them apart.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where if I'm not on site anymore, text me, call me, say, hey, are there any flat lay flowers? It's okay. You can talk to me. I mean, I'm a hermit and I'm, introverted, but I will respond if you do talk to me, unfortunately. So just talk to me about it. There are some times where, I don't know if all florists do this, but I sometimes will do something a little extra for the couple where they don't even know it's going to be there until they walk in. And I'll be like, hey, there's this one little arrangement on this table. If you can take something out that it doesn't look like there's a hole in it, have at it. Or a lot of times I'll say, hey, there's cake flowers on the cake table. Take them out of the little vase, use them, put them back in the little vase, or use that extra arrangement, take them out and put them on the flat lay, take them and put them back in. You won't be able to cut them, but don't cut them. Don't tear
I once worked with a florist who gave me flowers to use in my flat lay, but didn't tell me that they were the cake flowers. I didn't know. And she walks in and she's like, what? And I'm like, what? Flowers. I'm like, I didn't know. We always cut the flowers for the flat lays. I didn't. And she's like, those are for the cake. I'm like, I didn't know.
Oh, it's just a thing of communication, and that's okay. I don't know. I feel like what you need to realize is, if a baker buys a bag of flour and she uses 3/4 of it, that doesn't mean the rest of the flour is free.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when florists order in flowers, they come in bunches. Okay, so there's 10 stems per bunch for ranunculus, there's 25 per bunch of roses. And if that client paid for 21 roses and not 25 roses, profits come down to pennies these days, and it's not fair to expect or steal or anything like that. If I tell you that there's a bucket over there, have at it. I'm serious. Go ham. But profit is down to the pennies these days, and you just can't assume that flowers are growing out of our armpits, because they're not. If they were, then I'm a very, very happy person.
Absolutely. So what I do is it's part of my workflow to email the florist above and beyond all the other vendors. So my team emails the entire vendor team the Monday or Tuesday of the wedding week coming up, and just to check in. But then I also, and the florist gets that email too, but then I also reach out, if I know you well, I'm just going to text you or DM you or something like that. But if I've never worked with the florist before, I'm going to professionally email her and say, hello, I'm Megan Hoffer of Megan Hoffer Photography. I'm going to be working with you this weekend. Here's, we've sent the timeline, but I just wanted to note that this was the time that we were doing the flat lays. Did the clients purchase flat lay flowers? I totally understand that, these are your profits and I'm not expecting that. I'm just checking in to see if they have them. If not, that's totally fine. But if they purchase them or if you're providing them in some way, I just wanted to make sure that we're able to connect before the flat lays actually happen, because the florist doesn't always arrive by the time that I start the flat lays. So this is another big piece of communication that is missed in the shuffle all the time. Even when I know and we've connected, sometimes she's running late, and like those flat lays take a long time to do. So, and it's not as big of a deal for the florist to run a little bit late because you can just hustle up and you finish it quicker and you can do that. But for me, like I'm on a tight timeline and I need those 45 minutes to do the flat lay. If the flowers are 20 minutes late, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So, it's a big part of just communicating with each other and making sure everybody understands. So I shouldn't tell you this, but when I email the florist and I say the flat lays are starting at this time, I need them by this time, I usually say 30 minutes earlier than I actually need them, because I know that we're going to chat for a second or whatever. I need to actually get them and dry them off and clip them and everything. So you really need to talk to each other.
And you know what? Honestly, I've never even thought that me being 15 minutes late to a venue. I mean, sometimes Starbucks lines or Dunkin' lines are a little bit long, okay? Maybe I should ask like if you want a coffee next time just to kind of make up for it. But um and the funny thing is like creatives are known for being not on time. And I am not a morning person. So I'm glad that you said that because I never even thought. I definitely knew that sometimes I'd get there and the photographer's totally done with details. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the $45 box of blossoms. Like,
Or they're like trying to be nice, but like rushing you, like, oh hey, hi, you just pulled up, and do you have those detailed flowers? I mean, I don't want to like rush you, but like, so like that's why, because we're like we have to get them done because we have to move on to the next thing. Like, there's no going back. It's like we have to do them, and then they're done, and we have to move on with the day. So yeah, it's super important.
I feel like I knew that. I just never actually like brought it to the forefront of my mind and was like, Nadine, you're not the only chicken in the coop today.
But that's why we're having these talks, like all of these different scenarios that we just don't realize what the other people are going through on the day. We did a live with Chris Marks, DJ, and there were parts of his day that I hadn't really considered, and I'm like, oh, I feel so rude that I didn't even think of that. Like, yeah, okay, now I will look at your job from a different perspective. And I thought I had a really good handle on like working well with DJs, but I didn't even consider his setup time when I'm over here doing this. Like just all these little things that I'm so glad you all are signing on to do these talks, because this is important stuff.
I agree.
All right, so what's next? So lay out some pet peeves for us. What are some of your pet peeves of working with photographers? What are some things that photographers do or say that you're like, what?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to preface all of this by saying that I know not every company works this way, but I'm not there to make my portfolio look better. Okay. I'm there for the client. That's literally my job. My job is not to make myself look better. It's not to make my company look better using the stuff that somebody else paid for. That's a whole other story. Don't let me get on that soapbox. But here's a couple things. With that being said, here's a couple things that I think that photographers might want to be more aware of, because it can benefit both the client and the florist photographer relationship. Okay. So we'll start off with a number one easy one. Why are you taking photos of the groomsmen without boutonnieres on?
Mm. Yeah.
If they have even 5 groomsmen and 1 groom, that's like $120 worth of flowers, like on the low end. So I'm kind of like, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I totally get that you're on a schedule. Okay. But that's like saying, quick, get the girl down the aisle. Don't let her get the bouquet. We got to take the pictures, like it's just one of those things where, yeah, they look good without a boutonniere. But if the client paid for a boutonniere, let's get those suckers on. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to flow right down that same line here. If you are looking and photographing, and I know you have a lot on your mind, so you're not always looking at every single detail, but for the love of Pete, if the groom's boutonniere is upside down, just put it right back up again. Okay. Those guys are drinking, they're dancing, they're hugging, and things are bound to move around, and that's totally fine. It takes like less than a minute to repin a boutonniere onto a groom's lapel. And I feel like I've seen a lot of photos with boutonnieres upside down, or
and we don't know how to pin them.
yeah, and that's okay. And I can absolutely do videos on how to pin boutonnieres. Just ram jam those pins in there, yo. Like
So true though. You just get it on there. You get it in there.
yeah. So upside down boutonnieres or no boutonnieres. Let's think about that before we really get going here. On the same line, coming down around the bouquets. Okay, these are real flowers from real florists. Like if you're a faux florist, that's totally fine. These are real flowers. Their stems are fragile. Okay, some of them are. If you see a bouquet, whether it's the brides or the bridesmaids, a mom maybe, and there's a stem that is obviously broken or hanging on for dear life, or an obvious thing, yes, please either tuck it into the bouquet or snip it out of the bouquet. You can literally just like snap it out. Now if it's like an orchid that is the main focal flower of the bouquet, try to tuck that sucker in there. Okay. But it's one of those things that we can't tell the bride to not do certain things on her wedding day just to protect the bouquet. It's a fragile thing and that's just how it is. But I've gotten pictures back where I'm just like, oh, you could have just like, and that like, ooh, like it hurts, it hurts. So yeah, that's just something that, I think that can be very nerve-wracking for a photographer, because they're like, well, I'm not going to touch the flowers. I don't want to ruin them. I don't want to touch them. I don't want to make the florist mad. I don't want to change the florist's work. But if it's quite obvious, there are some times where it's quite obvious. I mean, you just can't get past it. Let's try to, and you can even like take a picture of the bouquet when the bouquet arrives, because that's probably how it's supposed to look. So if suddenly there's a green that's hanging straight down from a round bouquet, it's probably not it's supposed to be there. And so like, let's fix that.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. I
Yeah.
think, like you said, I think a lot of people are just afraid to touch it. They're afraid to mess it up. Either that or it's the other end where they're like, yeah, I don't care. Just throw that sucker around and, it's pretty colors and stick it in there. But no, like every flower has been placed very intentionally and purposefully by you, and every flower has been paid for by the client. But if it's hanging there and just the poor thing is just flopped over to the side and it's hanging out there and it looks awful, just snap it out or try to tuck it in. Or snap it out and try to tuck it in.
Yeah. What you want, man. That's like, there are 2 other things that I would say we should hit on. The next would be that every single flower that you see in the venue, I don't care if it's a bud vase or a massive arrangement, that was chosen specifically by the clients. Okay. So I will admit that I like to do a little extra something, whether it's adding in flowers or doing an extra arrangement or something for the client, just to kind of be like, hey, love you, here you go, I'm happy for you. But overall, every single arrangement was paid. Like, people have budgets. So if they decided to spend $30 on a vase of flowers this big, they chose for that to be there. And that's there for a purpose for them. So, getting photos, I'm not asking you to go to every single little table and take a straight on photo to add it to the album, but there's a reason for them being there. So just keep in mind that that's a thing.
Every flower is special.
Every flower is special. There's a reason that it's there. Nothing's there just because we're like, oh, we have a couple extra $100. Can you just like throw some stuff somewhere? I would love for that to happen, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Okay. The other and last thing I would say that we want to keep in mind is that I'm a really crap photographer, okay? And I'm running around that venue trying to dodge people, trying to get stuff where it's supposed to be, climb ladders when rehearsals are going on, like all kinds of stuff. I do not take photos well of the pictures. Share the albums. If you have a thing against a vendor because they don't tag you, then like I understand that can be kind of frustrating. That's a very soapboxy thing as well. But if you enjoyed working with the vendor, why wouldn't you share how it was captured? We worked really hard on this. We lost sleep on this. We worked on it. And
it's a team effort. It's a team effort. And our pictures wouldn't be as beautiful if we didn't have your beautiful flowers in them.
righto. Yeah. And I just feel like it strengthens connections with vendors. It strengthens trust with vendors, appreciation between vendors, and just overall that teamwork sentimentality of the whole thing. It's just one of those things where it's beneficial. Like, what are you going to lose by sharing the work that you did? It just doesn't make sense to me as to why you wouldn't.
I know. And you know very well that I work hard to get the pictures to everyone involved. We
Yeah.
go to great lengths to collect email addresses and make sure that that happens. But I think the mentality is that like, oh, you're going to make money off of my pictures. Well, to me, I'm like, yes, please make money off of my pictures. That would make me so happy to know that my pictures helped you make more money and to help you thrive in your business. It's a shift in mentality. I think there's a lot of photographers who are, they're charging a smaller like sitting fee, like portrait photographers, and then they're trying to upsell with selling selling prints and things like that. So for them, the mentality is like, well, I'm just going to give away my work. Like, people pay individually for this. And wedding photography is just different. It's different than the portrait photography world in that, I mean, you are getting paid to take the pictures of the whole day and you're delivering the whole day. I guess you could do it in a way that you're trying to upsell after the fact, but I mean, that's fine. That is fine if that's the way people want to structure their business, but I'm just not a salesy person. And I'm like, if I worked this hard to create this artwork for you and that it's right here done already, I want everyone to have it. And I want it to get the most use and value possible. So the more people I can bless with those pictures, I mean, it just makes my heart happy to see people excited and to see my work on their websites. That advertises for me. I call it connecting forward. It's my little term that I use in the education. You're connecting yourself forward by doing that, because then all the vendors, the florist is going to post those pictures and tag you, the venue will, and it's the way you spread the word about your business, and people love you for it, and it shows in the language they use when they talk about you.
I completely agree. There are, and most of the time I remember the photographers more who share. Like if I mean I'm there and my goal is to leave before anybody even arrives. Okay. That's like I'm like a little flower ninja fairy. I like to get in, get out. So I might not talk to any photographers at all. And that's a way to connect and to like we're all creatives here. What's you know, I think also the wedding world is a very unique platform because people don't do it every day. So they'll say, "Hey, who did you use?" Or they'll look on Instagram and they'll be like, "Okay, well, I'm going with this venue. Who has been at this venue? I'm just going to go through their feed and see who's tagged." And I can't tell you how many times I keep track of how people find me. And I can't tell you how many times it was Instagram, somebody tagged, my venue tagged you, I saw your work on my on so and so's page. And it's all word of mouth and how people can find you. So if you're just that's like saying no to Google for putting your website on the search bar. Like that doesn't make sense. Like why wouldn't you want that?
Yes, exactly. Yes, not sharing your pictures is like saying I don't want other people to spread the word for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just want I want to pay for advertising and I want to just keep all this stuff to myself and nobody talk about my business at all.
Yeah, have at it. Good luck. You never.
So we're running, we've almost been talking for an hour now. So before we end, what are some of your favorite parts of working with photographers? There's got to be something.
No, I love how they capture my flowers. Um, other than the fact that they're just cool people, I love how they capture what I do. And like I said, I'm a really crap photographer. I can't do it. That's why I don't have a business in photography. And just seeing how they look at it and like how they view it is just like a really special thing. And honestly, whether they're real color or are more artsy or moody or whatever, I love just seeing how they see the day, and I love how seeing how it all comes together. And I just appreciate your art because it is an art, because like not everybody can do it, trust me, not everybody can do it.
Yeah, that's why we all get paid the big bucks to like do our creative thing because we're only good at this one thing. I always say like, well, yeah, I'm a great photographer, but there are a lot of things I'm not good at. Spelling, definitely. But I just want to bring up for anybody listening who's just wants the more general, because I feel like Nadine, you are actually more gracious about editing styles and things like that, that you actually appreciate artwork in that like there are some crazy color changes that happen with some people, and I think it's super cool too. But you are going to find florists who get really upset with crazy editing styles. So I say crazy editing styles, but what I mean by that, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean just not true to color. So, you know, when you're going for a super moody style, a super dark and moody style, or just, you know, really changing the hue and saturation and luminance of the actual color tones of the flowers. Some florists get really upset about that because, you know, they get the pictures back if you do share the pictures and they're like, well, I can't use this because, you know, it doesn't even look like the flowers. I can't use this to represent my work. So Nadine, you have a very different and very more gracious and wonderful, you know, perspective, but that's not how all florists view. And I know you talk to other florists, so I'm sure you hear them talk about that.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, it is a hot button topic for sure. I kind of view it as we're all artists and this is how you viewed my art. And again, I'm going to circle back to what I said first. I'm not here I'm not here taking money from people to make my business look good. I'm here taking money from people to make their event look good in their eyes. So, have I done weddings that I don't personally find to be the most aesthetically pleasing? Yes. Did I put that in my portfolio? No. Um, and that's okay. I'm not here to serve myself. I'm here to serve other people. And I think that as artists, that's a difficult thing to swallow because we make our art and that's like, you know, taking up a Monet painting and being like, yeah, but like if you just put this over top, hey. Um, but that's part of being a vendor team. You are not the I'm not the leader. The venue's not the leader. The photographer is not the leader. This is a team. There's no I in team. So you need to realize that you're part of a team to do an event for someone else. If you don't like this stuff for your events, don't hire a photographer who does moody or different tones. Hire a photographer that you like, or maybe I like more artsy stuff, so I will hire a photographer that's moody. This isn't about me and my stuff. This is about how the client likes it. And I think that, again, as an artist, a lot of people have issues, and it's just kind of a hard pill to swallow because it's you put your heart and soul into it. I get it. But again, I'm not here for me. I'm here for the clients. So that's why I see it that way.
Thank you
100%.
for giving that perspective, because I think that's really important. And I love that you're the first florist on to talk about these things, to like show that you actually have that mentality. So thank you. Before you go, could you give one piece of advice? Like if you could give one piece of advice to photographers, like when it comes to working with florists, what would it be?
Talk to me. Just
I
talk
love
to me.
that. I love that. I love that. The communication is key.
100
Communication is key.
is everything.
Yeah. Now, did we miss anything? Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about today or bring up?
No, I think I'm sure I angered enough people with what I said. I think we're good.
I don't think you angered anyone. I think you did great. In fact, I think that you showed a more open-minded perspective than most do. So I think that's incredible. And, photographers need to know about the price of flowers, and, that you have a workflow too. And, that we're a team. I think that's for me. And, I hope that people take away the team mentality more than anything today. But, before you go, also, I'm hoping you will plug everything that you have so that people can get more Nadine in their lives and more Lancaster Flower Company. So where can they find you on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the places, and your retail store as well?
Absolutely. Okay, so Instagram, Facebook is kind of a dead animal, so we'll just kick that to the side of the road. But you can just search it in the search bar. Come on, guys. So if you're on Instagram, you can find us at Lancaster Flower Co. If you are looking at our balloon section, then we're Lancaster Balloon Co. Okay. And I say co because that's how it's spelled. It's company. Okay, guys. It's not Lancaster Flower Co. It's Lancaster Flower Company. I'm fine. It's fine. On TikTok, we're at Lancaster Flower Company. And I think that's most of my plugs, www.lancasterflowerco.com. And yeah, we're not hard to find. Type in Lancaster and flowers, and we're probably what's going to be closer to the top.
Well done on SEOing that name, by the way.
It was necessary.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time for us today. We really appreciate it. It was so wonderful to see your beautiful face and hear your beautiful laugh. You have my favorite laugh of anyone in the world. So
Thank you for being here and laughing with you.
well, you enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope everybody watching enjoys the rest of their day, and we hope to see you soon and see you later.